If you faced a Republican like Ron DeSantis in the primaries, what would it take for you to beat him?
Well, number one, I don't think I will face him because I don't see that. If I did it, I don't see that. I think most people would drop out. I think he would drop out.
I think he's right, too. He's right smack dab on the money with this one. Everybody else will just have to bide their time for another 4 years. The Republican nominee, if you want to ask my opinion right now, is going to be one of three people. Trump, Pence, or DeSantis. Unless something radical happens and Trump ends up endorsing one of his kids or something.
When I hear what you're saying about the need for perhaps you to run in 2024, what I'm hearing you say is you are going to run. Are you?
No, I haven't said that. I said that if I do run, I think that I'll do extremely well. And I'm looking not only at...
Dude, he's gonna run. I'm sorry, man. Unless he has a major medical crisis, he's gonna run. We all know it. This is a Trump interview. You guys remember when Trump was interviewed by the Australian guy? You guys remember that, right? It was brutal. Trump did not have a good time. Well, from what I've heard, even though this hasn't gotten the same attention, Yahoo Finance apparently had, while not as disastrous of an interview, not one that left Trump looking quite good from what I've heard. Now, I might be wrong. I have yet to watch this interview. We're going to watch it live together. But I've heard that this interview is interesting to say the least, so we're going to take a look at it.
Donald Trump was elected November 8th, 2016 to become the 45th president of the United States. During his administration, there was historic law passed, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as well as the coordination of the departments, FDA, HHS, Department of Defense, CDC, in what we all know as Operation Warp Speed, the $18 billion program to not only develop but then deliver vaccines against COVID-19. The 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, joins us now on Yahoo Finance Live. Mr. President, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Adam, very much.
I gotta say, out of all the places, Yahoo Finance, I didn't even know Yahoo Finance existed. Gonna be honest.
Wanted to ask you, a lot of us are curious what you think of the current state of the U.S. economy.
Well, it looks to me like inflation is going to ravage our country. I was there a long time ago with Jimmy Carter as president, and the inflation was devastating, where rates went, you had a prime rate that went up to 21%, which is not even believable when you think of it. And I saw things during that period as a businessman that I have never quite seen even since, and we've had some recessions, but not since. And it's very scary when you look at gasoline from $1.87 a gallon when I was president. It went from $1.87 and now it's well over $5, and it's going to go a lot higher. And they're calling OPEC and they're calling Russia and Saudi Arabia trying to make a deal. We had so much, we were energy independent. And,
Mr.
you know, when
Trump?
you talk about inflation, sort of energy is a big part of it, because if you make products, you have to deliver them with trucks. Everything else.
Let's talk about the energy part of that, though. The energy part, I'm glad you brought up inflation, because I got the latest numbers. CPI in August, 5.3%. If you take out fuel and food, 4%. But look, Americans are paying $6.99 for a half gallon of milk. When you talk about, for instance, fuel, the pace of inflation is actually slowing. That's what the government said. And then in California, I think, you know, the average price of a gallon of gas in California is over $4, but the rest of the country, it's like $3.50, $3.60. So it's not over $5 right now.
Well, a lot of the country, when I look at the country, I'm hearing numbers that are going to be $5 or soon to be.
You're hearing numbers. I mean, a lot of the country. Not a specific part of the country, but, you know, there are places, $6, $7, $20, $50, who knows. Just places in the country.
Don't forget.
Also, can I just say, even though this guy didn't push back on the inflation stuff, obviously, when you spend money, inflation could be a consequence of that. But there was going to be a spike of inflation no matter what. When you reopen the economy, try to go back into normalization after the shocks of a pandemic, as economies around the world shut down and there was lockdowns, and you reopen, and more people go back to work, more people go purchase goods, more people participate in said economy, there is going to be inflation. That was going to happen. Now, whether it was going to be as big as it is in combination with the American Rescue Plan and Biden's spending proposals, that is what economists debate.
OPEC already turned down the United States. You know, they went to OPEC of all groups, and they asked for relief on getting gasoline, getting.
By the way, Donald Trump's only pushback on this guy saying it's about $3.50 across the states if you were to be even-handed $4 in California, not 5 or 6, is just to say, I disagree, and then move on. No, here's a state, here's a source, here's anything, just bulldozing through.
Barrels of oil sent in. We had so much we didn't know. Look, we were energy independent. We had so much that we didn't know what to do with it. And now all of a sudden they're asking OPEC for help. They're asking Russia and Saudi Arabia for help. And I think that you're going to see numbers that we haven't seen in a long time for gasoline. And you really already are. You know, you were at $1.87 a gallon. And even if you take your $3.50 number, and that's just the low section, but a lot of the country.
That wasn't the low section. That is the majority of the country.
Is going to be and is already over $5. And what it's going to be in a year
Wait,
from now.
again,
Adam,
no
I think
source.
it's going to be much
He doesn't have any source on. Okay.
higher than that.
I want to get to some of the issues economically that we're all confronting. And I know in California, I've been corrected by my staff that it is over $5, but in a lot of the countries.
Oh, there you go. So it is in one state over $5, California. There we go. One state. Not a lot over the country. It's in one state. There we go. So the Yahoo Finance guy saved Trump. There you go.
Gas is
Finally, a Trump W. Liberals molding, seething.
under $5, but we have a short amount of time. And I wanted to ask you, because one of the issues that we're dealing with is this debt ceiling discussion. What worries you about whether we raise the debt ceiling or don't raise the debt ceiling? And what do you think of Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's recommendation?
Honest question, when is the last time Trump has cited a source? Honest question. Like in a conversation talking. Like, well, the Harvard study said, when is the last time he has cited a source? Chat, is there any example of it?
To just do away with it.
So I think we're in trouble.
Oh my God, Fluff, you found the source for that statement.
And I managed to escape and leave him.
Wow, you did actually find a source for that statement. Good job, Fluff. Jesus. Always grinding down there.
No matter what. If you raise it, that's not a good thing because the bill is so bad to $3.5 trillion. And if you raise it, bad. And if you don't raise it, bad. It's a bad situation to be in. The bottom line is
Wait. What did he say?
No matter what. If you
raise the debt ceiling. And what do you think of Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's recommendation to just do away with it?
So I think we're in trouble no matter what. If you raise it, that's not a good thing because the bill is so bad to $3.5 trillion. And if you raise it, bad. And if you don't raise it, bad. It's a bad situation to be in. The bottom line is the $3.5 trillion plus $1.2 trillion plus other things that we had to do for COVID, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about historic numbers, and I just don't know if this economy can take it. And if it can't take it, it's been a bad bet. So raising it is bad, and not raising it is bad. I mean, you just look at what's happened.
Wow, thank you. So raising it is bad, keeping it is bad, everything is bad. I guess I don't have a position on something that could destroy the United States economy. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
And there are a lot of bad scenarios, but I think the worst scenario is $3.5 trillion.
By the way, can I say, while he's not articulating a position here, he does have a position. In fact, Trump urged the GOP senators to vote against the McConnell deal. And so his position is just screw the deal, but he won't even express whether he's for getting rid of the debt ceiling or keeping it. Or the only position he's had and showed is that he urged senators that support him to vote against the deal McConnell tried to get with Democrats.
I just don't think our country can take it, and I think they're changing the norm of the country by doing it.
But help me understand what you just said, because the $3.5 trillion, that reconciliation bill that the Democrats are debating amongst themselves about how they get that through, that doesn't deal with the debt ceiling as we understand it now. The debt ceiling covers the debt that administrations, Republican and Democratic administrations, all accrued over the last several decades. So why wouldn't we want to make good on it?
And this, right, but this will add to it.
It won't.
And whether if you call it an infrastructure bill, which really it's a percentage, a small percentage of.
Somebody in chat just said he should ask Trump how much a loaf of bread costs. That's actually a wonderful idea.
That money goes to infrastructure. If you talk about that one at 1.2 trillion, it all adds to it, whether it's immediately or into the future. It's tremendous borrowing. There's no way that they can take this. You know, they're saying it's net neutral. It's not net neutral. It's just the opposite of net neutral. So this will add to it, whether it's immediately or into the longer term.
Are you saying we should not raise the debt ceiling, though, and default on the debt we've already accrued? Because whether they pass any of the infrastructure, the $1.2 trillion, or the reconciliation bill, we have to raise the debt ceiling to pay for our previous debt. Are you saying we should not do that?
Well, I say this. I say that the Republicans have a very strong card to play, and they can get a lot of...
Okay, so he's not answering the question again. Okay, great. Wonderful.
What they want and what they feel. You know, this was an election, and we don't have to get into it, but this was an election that was rigged. And it was...
there it is. He's asked a question about the debt ceiling. He doesn't know the answer, so he just pivots to rigged election. Dude, unironically, every single time he says something like this, like he just dodges a question, can't answer something, can't source shit, and he says it's a rigged election, I know it isn't a rigged election, but there's kind of like the tiniest little thing in the back of my head saying, my God, I hope that if he runs again, it is rigged. Because this dude's a fucking maniac. He doesn't know anything.
It was very, very close at worst. It was extremely close.
I don't really believe that. Please don't clip that.
This was not a mandate to change the norms of our society. This was not a mandate to become a socialist country or worse. And I think the Republicans have to play the cards.
He's not answering the question. Answer the fucking question. Oh, my God.
That they're dealt. No, that's a very, very powerful card. It's a very strong card. Hopefully they won't have to play it, but I think they will in order to do something with the 3.5 and other things.
Mr. President.
So he was asked a question about the debt ceiling, and instead of talking about the debt ceiling, he talks for a tiny bit about it, dodges around it, then talks about how the election was rigged. It wasn't, but in his world it was, and then swings back around it to, again, not answer the question.
You just said something and opened a window, so I have to respond to you about when you said the election was rigged. It was Mitch McConnell, who is, the majority leader in the Senate, who said on January 6th, nothing before us proves illegality anywhere near the massive scale that would have tipped the entire election, nor can public doubt alone justify a radical break when the doubt itself was incited without any evidence. That's Mitch McConnell, Mr. President. So why do you persist with the election was rigged?
Mitch McConnell doesn't know what he was talking about. If you look at the data that's coming in from many states, you'll see that...
Look, Mitch McConnell had no problem with what happened with Al Gore in 2000, okay? If there's anybody who would like to take advantage of a shifty situation, it's Mitch McConnell, okay? He would only be able to say this if there was literally nothing he could scrape together. And it wasn't just Mitch McConnell. It was Mitch McConnell. It was Lindsey Graham. It was Liz Cheney. It was Bill Barr. It was Trump's own election security officials. It was the Secretary of State of Georgia, Raffensperger, who Trump personally tried to pressure into finding the votes.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. The people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
Into finding the votes?
More votes than they had voters. If you look at Arizona, which, by the way, other than the coverage, the fake coverage in the press, if you look at Arizona and the findings, they had many findings. They were tens of thousands of.
To be clear, the Arizona audit, once all was said and done, said that nothing changed. Biden is still president. It didn't flip over the election. And what it did find was that Biden won by more votes. Just to be clear.
Votes, and it was a very close election.
No, it didn't. It gave Biden more votes.
They had tens of thousands of votes that were either fraudulent or could have been fraudulent, or they didn't.
What does that even mean? Could have been fraudulent.
That's not what the.
And that's also not what it said. If I remember correctly, it was like around 200 out of 3 million. And that was could have been fraudulent, not as they were. If the numbers I remember, it was 200 out of 3 million.
Cyber Ninjas
that
found.
Alone would have turned.
You're talking about the 74,000 votes, which actually were early votes. Those were valid votes.
No, I'm talking about much more than that. If you go to the findings
Wait, what? Much more than that? So that is include.
in Arizona, you will see. Now, I just heard they, with a different county, they just found 35,000 additional votes. Don't forget.
Which county? He doesn't even say the county.
I so-called lost by approximately 10,000
So-called lost.
votes. And I heard yesterday they just found an
Dude, this guy makes more excuses than Deontay Wilder, man.
additional 35,000 votes. So the Attorney General is investigating to see, and we'll find out soon. He's looking at the whole thing. But if you look at the findings of that report done by the Senate, not done by me, it was done by the Senate of Arizona, those findings are damning. Now, Mitch McConnell doesn't know what he's talking about.
Let's get back to the economy, because Gary Cohn, an economic advisor and one of the architects of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, has joined us repeatedly. And he's pointed out on our program that a couple of promises that the tax cut would pay for itself have not delivered, and that the growth that they would generate did not deliver. How do you respond to that? What happened?
Well, I don't know what Cohn said. I can tell you this, that until COVID worked its way into our country and into the world from China, right out of probably almost certainly the Wuhan lab.
Oh, dude. What do you mean almost certainly? There's no scientific There's no scientific consensus saying that it came out of a Wuhan lab. There's no scientific consensus saying that it came out of a Wuhan lab. There is zero scientific consensus that it came out of a Wuhan lab. There is speculation. There are questions. There is no almost certainly.
Until COVID came in, you had an economy that was roaring like never before. And even after we did that and went through the hell of COVID-19 or the...
Does anybody have the graph that shows that like most of Trump's administration was just continuing to fly high off the Biden off of the Obama administration's policies? Anybody have that graph? I'll see if I can get it.
China virus or Wuhan or whatever you want to call it, even as we worked our way, and when I left office, our economy was really starting to get strong again because the foundation was so good. Had we not had COVID, then Gary Cohn would have been 100% wrong. He would have been anyway, probably. But the COVID element is a very important thing that came out of China, but it came out of, in a sense, just from a timing standpoint, nobody ever thought this was possible to have something like this. This was in 1917, where 100 million people died. Nobody thought a thing like this was.
Okay, here it is. Here's one of the graphs. I have a few, but I'll just do this one. Okay, Obama gets in. Bush screws up the economy. Tries to get us out of the financial crisis. Barely able to, struggle, does it. Boom, gets reelected, continues. You see a spike around here. Trump gets elected, continues that trend. Boom, handles the COVID crisis terribly. Pandemic, economy takes a big owie.
Positive. And frankly, if I didn't come up with the vaccines in record-setting time, less than 9 months, and also buy a lot of the vaccine production and all, you wouldn't have the shots for another 5 months from now. So,
Mr. President,
we saved tremendous numbers of lives. But
I do
the
want to.
economy was roaring.
Can I just?
No economy.
Wait, this is from the Joint Economic Committee. Congressman Don. Oh, snap. Trump inherited a strong economy that got stronger. Unemployment under Obama, employment fell from a recession peak of 10% to only 4.7. It continued to drop now, is 3.5. Job growth. By the end of the Obama administration, the economy had experienced 76 consecutive months of job growth. Since Trump became president, the streak has extended to 111 consecutive months. Well, not for long. Okay, 1 second. Average job growth during the last 35 months of the Obama administration, non-farm job growth averaged 227,000 per month. During the first 35 months of the Trump administration, the average was 36,000 per month less, averaging 191 per month. Average real GDP growth was roughly the same for the first 11 quarters of Trump's presidency and for the last 11th quarter of the Obama administration. Okay, let's get to the graphs. So this was the start of the Obama administration, turns it around. Yeah, that's roughly the same, except slightly bigger under Obama. Unemployment rate spikes. Obama inherits crisis, brings it down to 4.7. Trump inherits, continues to go lower, then takes credit for unemployment. Okay, got it. Thank you very much. This was even more than I was asking for.
In history has ever roared.
Actually,
before.
Mr. President, on the economy, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Bureau of Economic Analysis points out, without COVID, the first 3 years of your administration, the average growth was 2.5%. And the last 3 years of President Obama's administration was 2.3%. So not a dramatic change.
Damn, okay. Why did I even do all of that then? Thank you.
We had the highest stock market in history. We had the most number of jobs in history, and we were getting ready to rock. We were starting to get
ready to rock.
Done with the
Okay, at the end of Trump's administration, they were getting to rock, and then it would have been so cool, but then pandemic happened. Oopsie daisy. Okay.
horrible trade deals.
It was going to be a great Twisted Sister song. It was going to be amazing. But then, old COVID came out of the Wuhan lab to destroy Trump's chances.
Made with all of these countries. We had just made a great trade deal with China, which we actually completed, which has helped.
Don't you hate it when China forces Trump not to have a vaccine dispersal plan? Isn't that terrible? When China did that, and that was China who did that. Wasn't it terrible when China made Trump say that that COVID could go away with the heat in the summer, and lie a bunch of other times when it comes to COVID? Doesn't it suck that China had the power to make Trump do that, and it was all China's fault, and Trump holds zero responsibility? God, it's crazy, man.
Helped our farmers greatly. We did the USMCA. This country was ready to rock until COVID came.
Let's talk about COVID, because Operation Warp Speed is one of the positives from the administration, and you've brought up the need for vaccines. You've actually told people to get vaccines. I'm just curious. I got the Pfizer vaccine. Which vaccine did you get? Have you shared that with us yet?
Oh.
Well, I got the Pfizer, and I would have been very happy with any of them. I thought a very bad statement was when they did a pause on Johnson & Johnson. I think that frightened people. That was a bad thing to do. At that time, when they did the pause, they had 6 people that may have had some difficulty out of millions that received it, but I think the pause was a very bad thing to do.
Mr. President, you've talked a lot about the good state of your health, and I'm curious, would you get the booster shot?
Well, if I felt it was necessary, I guess I have sort of a double...
I forgot about this. 15 times Trump praised China as coronavirus was spreading across the globe. Ah, man. But hey, to be fair, that was before he found out it was a great scapegoat, so we can't pin it too much on him.
Vaccine, because as you know, I had it, recovered from it pretty well. I don't think I had it like the press, like the media said. They were making it difficult.
Oh, who's my friend? Oh, this is my friend Mike. He's going to be staying with me until he decides to run in a few years.
Not pleasant, but I had it. I recovered. I, in addition to that, got the shot. I mean, I'm somebody that tells people I'd like to see them get it. I also want them to have their freedoms, etc. But I got the...
Good that Trump's saying this. Okay, this is some positive development.
Double shot.
I mean, this is like thanking the arsonist for not setting a fire, but it's good to see him not say vaccine's terrible.
And if I felt that it was necessary, and let's see where this whole thing is going. I mean, I was surprised. I thought it would have been gone long before now. You know, you don't hear Biden being criticized
I mean, he did assert that I was going to be gone in the summer.
for the fact that this thing is lingering on in some cases. You know, numbers that are
Wait,
very
what do you mean he's not being criticized? He's being criticized constantly.
large.
It is, Mr. President, it is linked.
I think the problem is, though, they want to criticize him more about it, but it's difficult to criticize somebody for a pandemic that you also want to downplay so you can advocate against vaccine mandates and mask mandates. So it's a difficult Republican messaging balancing act. Because on one hand, Biden is continuing this terrible pandemic in this country, but on the other hand, the pandemic isn't that terrible. Don't worry about vaccine mandates. We don't need that shit. So how do you balance both of these things?
Lingering on, but when I mentioned you had said to your supporters, get a vaccine, some of them booed, and the current data shows us that it's the unvaccinated that are contributing.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. At one of his most recent rallies, he advised people to get a vaccine, and they all just opened up in boos. Geek, you can put that footage right here. My God.
To why it's lingering. What do you say to those people?
Well, you know, it's interesting. When I was president, everybody wanted to get the vaccine. Everybody. There was a rush to get it. You didn't hear anything about mandates. You didn't hear anything about, oh, gee, people don't want to take it. After I left, people don't want to take it. And it's very interesting. And I think it's because they don't trust.
During the 2015 Republican debates, I'm not going to forget this, even if other people have. If I remember correctly, Trump vaccine 2015. Autism.
There have been numerous studies, and they have not demonstrated that there's any correlation between vaccinations and autism. Vaccines are very important, certain ones, the ones that would prevent death or crippling. There are others, there are a multitude of vaccines which probably don't fit in that category, and there should be some discretion.
Autism has become an epidemic. 25 years ago, 35 years ago, you look at the statistics, not even close. I am totally in favor of vaccines, but I want smaller doses over a longer period of time. And
He's making the connection between autism and vaccines, and then advocating for some weird kind of McGovern type smaller dose. He wants the microdose vaccines like people do with Coke.
you pump, I mean, it looks just like it's meant for a horse, not for a child. 2 years.
Oh my God. He saw ivermectin coming 6 years away. He really is playing 4D chess.
Old, 2.5 years old, a child, a beautiful child, went to have the vaccine and came back, and a week later got a tremendous fever, got very, very sick, now is autistic.
Dr. Carson, you just heard his medical take.
He's an okay doctor.
I'm all for vaccines, but
Anyway, you get the point. He helped lay the groundwork in 2015.
Biden. They don't trust the administration. As you know,
You don't think it's misinformation about the vaccines?
Vice President Harris made some very nasty comments, and I think maybe people took that seriously, what she said. But, I think they hurt the vaccine.
What comments?
Now they're trying to get everybody to take it. But I will say, and I think you'll agree, when I was president, there was a rush to get it. Everybody wanted to get it. It was only after that you started to hear this.
Let's shift to the political landscape, because we're all curious. What issues are...
It's almost as if it isn't actually concern over the vaccine, and it's just political posturing. Crazy.
Are you considering that will help you decide if you're going to run for the Republican nomination to become president in 2024?
Okay. Well, when I looked at what happened with the military in Afghanistan, that was a horrible, horrible situation. Taking the military out first began it, but it was just grossly incompetent. We lost the 13 young, incredible warriors. We also have many wounded that nobody talked about, but very seriously wounded. I guess 200 and close to 250 people died. Okay, of the people in the area. 250 people died almost, and it was terrible.
Why would he? Okay, it's hard for me to actually think Donald Trump cares about Afghan civilians when he famously said we need to bomb the families of terrorists, advocating for bombing civilians. It's very hard for me to actually believe he gives a fuck.
Leaving behind $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world instead of taking it out. Every single screw, bolt, every machine, every plane, every tank was going to be taken out. The tents were going to be taken out.
While there was, and I've made videos about this in the past, so nobody can say I'm just being a partisan Democrat, while there was a ton of mistakes over Afghanistan, and I just want to say, when it comes to his comments on soldiers, Trump doesn't exactly have the best history when it comes to soldiers dying. Particularly, we can point to the example in Niger and how he dealt with that and started having the back and forth with the widow of one of the soldiers that just died. And the second thing I want to say is that Trump wanted the withdrawal to happen months before. Meaning, it would have had to have happened earlier with even less time to prepare. Not to mention the fact that Trump famously advocated for a Muslim ban. And if you think that that didn't happen, or you didn't believe me, his exact words were, I am calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until we can find out what the hell is going on. So my question to that would be, how do you think Trump would have treated the Afghan refugees that needed to come to the United States that right now OAN and Newsmax are demonizing as Islamic extremists? And don't just think it's American media either. I can point to Russia Today, which has done something very similar. But no, I don't think it would have managed it any better. Not to mention, the other withdrawal that we did see Trump do was the withdrawal from northeastern Syria, which was a complete disaster. So no, I don't think he would have managed it any better. I would be surprised if he managed it to the same level.
Big hangars that you see, they were going to be taken out.
Does your administration, does your
happened.
administration bear any responsibility? I mean, it was the negotiation under your administration that precipitated our withdrawal. Are you saying you would have left soldiers, you would have left the U.S. military in Afghanistan? Because you were in favor of pulling everyone out.
No, we have absolutely no responsibility. I dealt with Abdul, who's the leader, and I told him very strongly that you will be hit harder than any country has ever been hit. And he understood that. And as you know, and Biden even...
You know what? Well, that settles it. He looked at a terrorist and said, I'll beat you up. And the terrorist was like, ooh, scary. And boom. And then Biden came in. He was like, listen, Jack, I love terrorism.
Admitted it. For 18 months, not one soldier was shot at or killed. Not one soldier, not one American.
Yeah, but that doesn't even have to do with the Taliban. That's the American soldiers dying was not due to the Taliban. It was due to an ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan, which you did not negotiate a peace with. Thank God. Don't negotiate peace with ISIS.
And I let them know you can't do that. That was a part of the agreement. If they didn't...
Also, Trump escalated drone strikes against the Taliban in 2016, 2017, 2018, and dropped a mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. And then reversed course when his escalations did not work. He also escalated troop presence. He just flip-flops on Afghanistan constantly.
Fulfill conditions. If you know, we had 2,500 people there. We started with close to 20,000, and we were down to 2,500. And I was a big proponent of getting out. But getting out with dignity, getting out with no death, there would not have been... We had them exactly where we wanted to have them, and they would not have done anything to us. We would have been able to take our soldiers out, take our equipment out, but we would have taken the soldiers out last. First, all of the Americans come out, and people that deserve to come out beyond the Americans.
If this were...
I would like to hear Trump describe who deserves to come out. I would love to hear it.
Now, we've taken out hundreds of thousands of people that most of them, only 3% at this moment, seem to deserve to come out. We don't even know who these people are.
So Mr. Trump, when you consider what it's going to take for you to decide if you're going to run for president, this would be one of the issues curious, though.
This would be one who just the gross incompetency.
One
Other
of many
issue,
issues, I would imagine. But you'd have to
yeah,
win the
many
nomination
issues.
again.
Well, the
I mean,
economy.
I'm curious. How would you?
I'll give you a couple of others.
Wait, Trump, you gotta let him speak.
Well,
the economy, inflation.
How would you feed? How would you?
Come on. They need a second moderator.
If you faced a Republican like Ron DeSantis in the primaries, what would it take for you to beat him?
Well, number one, I don't think I will face him because I don't see that. If I did it, I don't see that. I think most people would drop out. I think he would drop out.
I think he's right too. He's right smack dab on the money with this one. Everybody else will just have to bide their time for another 4 years.
And if I faced him, I'd beat him like I would beat everyone else, frankly. And you take a look at what's going on in the polls, where I have way over 90%, and in some cases 98% approval rating in the Republican Party.
The Republican nominee, if you want to ask my opinion right now, is going to be one of three people: Trump, Pence, or DeSantis. I think those are the only three people with a viable path, unless something radical happens and Trump ends up endorsing one of his kids or something.
Because I did a great job as president, despite all of the hoaxes.
Not Pence. I've already talked about why I think Pence has a decent shot at length. I don't need to do it again. But look at my most recent video on my YouTube channel. It's just about this.
Despite the Russia stuff that now has been exposed as a total fraud, despite everything, we did a great job. Largest tax cuts in history, rebuilt the military, Space Force, took care of our vets, 92% approval rating in the VA for the first time ever, way higher than ever before. You know, we did a job that nobody's done. And had COVID not come and interrupted, we had the greatest economy. Again, say what you want. We had 160 million jobs. Our country was never close to that.
It's
never close to that.
Mr. Trump, it's not what I want. It's just the jobs created during your administration. I think that it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics points out it was something like 6.4 million jobs, and during the Obama administration, it was 7 million jobs. But when I hear what you're saying about the need for perhaps you to run in 2024, what I'm hearing you say is you are going to run. Are you?
No, I haven't said that. I said that if I do run, I think that I'll do extremely well. And I'm looking not only at...
Dude, he's going to run. I'm sorry, man. Unless he has a major medical crisis, he's going to run. We all know it. Unless he dies in the next 3 years or has a major medical crisis, he is going to run.
Polls, I'm looking at the enthusiasm. We did a great job. Now, when you say what you had just said, the economy, as you know, was very bad when he took over. So the economy wasn't terrible when I took over, but it wasn't great. It was stagnant and slow. I guess it was the worst recovery since the Depression of 1930. So that's not a very good job done by the previous administration. But I took over an economy and I made it into 160 million jobs. And it was really getting ready to rock. We would have rocked it. But then, as you know, COVID came in from China.
He came in from China and it just destroyed everything. No fault on Trump's feet whatsoever.
Bring up China. A great many of our viewers here on the Yahoo Finance platform are into cryptocurrencies, and the well-known Bitcoin investor Anthony Pompliano was just on my program.
Oh no, please don't ask Trump about Bitcoin. Oh no, I don't want to know. Please.
Talking about China's crackdown on crypto. He says that's a big gain for the United States. You have a relationship with the Chinese president, Xi Jinping. What do you think Xi Jinping is up to? And is this crackdown on crypto good for the U.S.?
Oh my God. Well, let's dive into it. I'm sure he'll have a very educated answer. I'm sure he knows the ins and outs of the crypto market.
Well, I think he wants to do his own currency, whether it's crypto or otherwise. And one of the reasons that we have to be very careful is we have a currency right now, the dollar. And
what do you mean they want to do their own currency? Like their own crypto, or like the Chinese? There's already a Chinese currency.
I'm a big fan of the dollar. I'm a big fan of our currency, and I don't want to have other currencies coming out and hurting or...
Tell me more about this dollar.
Demeaning the dollar in any way. And China's looking to do... China's certainly not looking to back the dollar, but right now they're based on the dollar, and they would probably have to stay that way unless we do something very foolish in our country.
Literally nothing to do with the question.
I mean,
He doesn't know anything about this.
the problem that I have with so much has happened, whether you look at the border,
Somebody should convince Trump to put all of his assets in the crypto and see what happens.
the horror show at the border, or the horror show of the Afghan withdrawal, is our country
They are doing a national digital coin. Oh, really? Can I see a link on that?
is losing credibility. And if you look at a monetary system based on the dollar, if you start losing credibility, all of a sudden you're going to lose that strong monetary system. And we have to be very careful about that.
Mr. Trump, there's one last question I want to ask you.
Okay, so he was referring to their own crypto. Okay. Yeah, I would like to see a link on it. That actually sounds super interesting.
We wrap, and it's because I covered your administration for the first year and a half. I was in Washington, and I remember that Steve Bannon lost your trust when he spoke to Michael
Wait,
Wolff
when you said it's a national digital coin, that means it's not a cryptocurrency, though? Or is it still a cryptocurrency?
for that book, and he left the administration. But he's re-earned your trust, and I'm curious what he did to get back into your good graces and to get your trust.
Well, Steve didn't get along with certain people in the administration, so I understand that that happens, and it happens with all administrations, frankly. And for a period of time, he just didn't do it, and I understand that. But if you look at Steve over the last 3 years, he sees what a great job we've done as an administration. When you look at all of the things that
Thank you for the wonderful article.
I've enumerated, plus many others. I mean, a thing like Right to Try, where you can get medical treatment of something experimental if you're in bad shape. If
But
you're
Mr. Bannon,
terminal or in bad
he was
shape.
advising
We
you
did
towards
so
the
many
end of
things.
your administration?
Excuse me?
Mr. Bannon was advising you towards the end of the administration?
No, not at all. No, I haven't spoken to Steve almost at all. No, he wasn't. But I know that he's got a show that's very successful. and
He
people
says he does.
Would tell me.
So is he lying when he says he was talking to you in the last months of your administration?
Very little. We would speak very little. No, Steve and I spoke very little. But
Yo, what just happened? Am I the only one that caught that? Wait.
all of the things that I've enumerated, plus many others. I mean, a thing like Right to Try, where you can get medical treatment of something experimental if you're in bad shape. If
But
you're
Mr. Bannon,
terminal or in bad
he was
shape.
advising
We
you
did
towards
so
the
many
end of
things.
your administration?
Excuse me?
Mr. Bannon was advising you towards the end of the administration?
No, not at all. No, I haven't spoken to Steve almost at all. No, he wasn't. But I know that he's got a show that's very successful. and
He
people
says he does.
Would tell me.
So is he lying when he says he was talking to you in the last months of your administration?
Very little. We would speak very little. No, Steve and I spoke very little. But I will tell you, he was very supportive on his show, which is a successful show, and he was
he rushed to get out of that. Oh boy.
very supportive in the
He rushed. Very little. Anyway.
media as to the things we. But no, we spoke
Oh,
very
boy.
little actually. But he was extremely supportive.
Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States. Thank you so much for joining us on Yahoo
Thank you very
Finance.
much, Adam.
Wow. This is probably the first time I've seen a reporter get to a confrontation with Trump and Trump doesn't get fucking angry at them. Okay. China creates its own digital currency, a first for major economy. A cyber yuan stands to give Beijing power. Okay, so it's not a cryptocurrency. Okay, got it. So they still have banned cryptocurrency. Okay. That was an interesting interview, to say the least. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.